everyone. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching The Naturalist Capitalist, and I'm Reed Coverdale, and I've got another special guest on the show. I've got Clayton Cleveland running for the House in Illinois for District 80. How's it going today?
Oh, it's going well. Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate the time that you're taking to be able to share my views and share kind of the libertarian philosophy.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad you came on. So why don't you just start out by telling us about yourself, not necessarily your views, but more about who you are as a person, what you've done for a living, why you're deciding to run for Illinois Congress right now.
Okay. First of all, like Clayton D. Cleveland that I'm running as. My wife and I live here in the south suburbs of Chicago. This is where grew up, and this is where we were raised. And partly one of the decisions is we wanted to stay here. Illinois has been a very tough situation where we are losing a lot of population, where it came down to, do we stay here for the future? Like, why are we staying here with the financial situation of the state and the tax situation of the state? So really want to see if we can make a difference. I decided to come on, or decided to start running after thinking about it, putting a lot of thought into it, just that I didn't like that people hated each other, that over politics, that friends and family were no longer talking. We have people that are hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away, that we'll never see, that we'll never know, and they are disrupting our lives to a sense where we won't even talk to our friends anymore. One of the biggest things that I heard when I was petitioning was that, oh, you don't want to talk to them because they are so far left or so far right, or that they won't even listen to you. Like, you can't even have a conversation. So that was kind of where I got to the point of we have to do something. There has to be something where we cannot be fighting each other over little issues with someone else has that much control over our lives that we hate people that actually care about them. A little bit more background about myself. I worked as a trader at the Mercantile Exchange, trading agricultural products. Worked there for a few years, then moved to the Treasuries. Then after that, just had some struggles with it, had some ups and downs. So I've been selling insurance, working a small organic farm, selling insurance. And just looking for a life in Illinois that both my wife and I can enjoy and raise a family in. So
awesome. So I really like what you said about political division and how you're looking to heal that. Without going into really specific issues, you want to just give us your basic philosophy as far as what government is supposed to do, and the changes you'd like to see in society as a whole?
Yeah. I think politicians, the role of politicians should be more of an advocating for different entities or different causes. That instead of asking people to take, we should be asking people to give. That politicians now get elected by saying, oh, we should be taking from X party and giving to X party. That they're choosing people to win, and we turn a blind eye to the people that are losing. But I feel like the whole goal right now is, let's pick the winners. That way they get us to vote. Where I believe that politicians should be asking the constituents and asking the public, asking companies, asking individuals to give freely. That way the money that is spent, the tax dollars or however dollars is spent, is more reflective of the actual view of the people, and giving them more of a choice of where it's going, instead of, oh, we're going to take this money from one pool and we're going to give it to this pool. And so that way you get the votes of the people that you are choosing as the winners.
Right. What issues are really important to you? Like, what are your top priorities if you win? And let's kind of dive into them one at a time. So, like, give us one really important issue to you and explain what you think the problems are with it, what your solutions would be, and then maybe I'll ask some questions about it.
So, like in the state of Illinois and in our district, the tax rate and the finances of the state, it is very non-transparent. It's very opaque. That we have where we definitely have some big issues with what is actually going on. Like what is the status of our finances? How are we going to ever be able to pay for this? And we have over a quarter of our tax dollars now are going to fund services that were rendered years ago, decades ago. And is this a sustainable model? Like we have to understand what the true status of this is, and why are people leaving? How do we get people to stay? So the tax status, the financials, and then with that, the outgoing of the population. That Illinois is one of only 2 states that is actually losing population, where everyone else is gaining population. One of the other issues, especially in our district, is the education. We have 14 public high schools in the district, and we've had 2 of them close in the last decade. Two of them closed permanently. One of them was open less than 7 years. It spent $50 million, and then they're closing it within 7 years. So we have a growing population area, but we are taxing the hell out of people, and then we are not even able to fund basic services after we tax them. We have to have a better opportunity and a better way going forward with those. And then kind of the third big issue that looking at is just the level of corruption in Illinois. I know that there's assumed corruption, but also I think we have had 4 or 5 governors go to prison. Like that is something that should not be happening. Like politicians should not be going to prison because of bribery scandals. And I know that there's another bribery scandal breaking right now in Illinois, but being able to clean that up, which also goes back to the original point of financial transparency. But I think those are 3 of the biggest issues, state of Illinois wise, that we're kind of facing.
Okay, so let's dive into those. The first one was transparency and where the money is going. A criticism we libertarians get a lot is that we want to fix the problems by defunding. That's kind of a simplified way of looking at it. But before I even say that, what is your plan with taxes? Is it cutting them? Is it cutting spending? Is it reallocating? Is it allowing the private sector to improve the situations that are going on? How do you really want to tackle that corrupt spending and taxation and make it a more transparent process and make sure the funds are going to the right places?
One of the things is that I would like private entities and private individuals to be able to fund public entities. That we should be reaching out to private companies, and if people really feel strongly about something, allow them to fund it. Where instead of having forced taxation on it, that if you want to have these schools, let's try to find private donors to do this. We have so much control that is in the hands of the politicians that instead of the politicians reaching out to public entities instead of private entities or like large public companies, let's get some of the funding that way. So I do think that having private entities involved in public life would be a better way forward. I also think where we are heavily controlled, like state of Illinois is almost like a one-party state, and the Democrats have been controlling it since I've been alive, and then the Republicans, they don't really stand up to the Democrats, and also many of the Republicans are on the same wavelength. Just having a difference of party, just having a different viewpoint, just having a different thing, pushing for transparency and pushing for actual understanding is part of the other aspect that I'm looking for. Is that okay? We have a set group of people that are in power and they're staying in power, and so they don't want to rock the boat. But I feel like if you actually have other people come in, that they might be able to just see and say something different than what has been said for the past couple decades.
Right. The second thing you were talking about there was school. How do you think we can improve public school? Do you think that the content is bad, or do you think that the teachers don't have enough resources, or do you think that it's an outdated system that we need to upgrade? What are your solutions exactly for making the public school a more successful path for students?
I, I think the current public school model is a one size fits all. And I think that is both for students and for teachers. That it is, you have certain students that have to go to this school, that they are required to go to this school, and teachers have to teach this way, where every kid is different. Every parent's different. Every lifestyle is different. That there needs to be more opportunities where they can better fit schools that better fit them. But instead, we say, okay, you belong to this district, so you have to go to this school. My mom's a teacher, or was a teacher. She just retired. Two sister-in-laws and mother-in-law's a teacher. A lot of great friends with it. But then I hear them complain about the system over and over and over again. But also, they complain that the schools box them in of what they can and can't learn. But we have all these set schools where I think most of the kids learn differently. You're going to have certain kids that thrive in the public school model right now, but then other kids would do well in a more disciplinary school, or a military school, or religious school, or even like the microeducation. Like I think right now, like with the COVID and the coronavirus, where people are scared to send their kid with 300, 500 other kids, where you could have a 10-person classroom, and all these retailers are out of business right now. Rent one of those and just have one teacher for 10 kids. Have like a microeducation. Allow the homeschooling. So I think that where we send our funds is just at one specific system, and that is all we say that is available. We say you have to go to this system, and then it doesn't matter if it's good for the kid, bad for the kid, good for the teacher, bad for the teacher. That is just the only place that we send the funds. So allowing more of a dispersal, and allowing it so that kids and teachers can have a situation that better fits them, versus just based off of what district they're in, or how they redrew the lines, or anything along those lines. So allowing it to open up a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it really sounds like what you're getting at is just thinking outside the box instead of trying to ram a square peg in a round hole. And that's something the government really has a hard time with. And I think it's something that as a society, we really need to start embracing, just realizing that the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over and over again, even though you know it's going to fail. And for some reason, we keep doing that. And if people like you come along with a nuanced solution, then they dismiss it. And that's really unfortunate, because we're trying to find solutions that will work for everybody, not just one person. And I think that's great.
Absolutely. Like, we're all very different people. Even people that grew up down the street from each other is very different than I'm different than my brothers. Like we need a different situation. Everyone has their own outlook. Everyone learns differently. Everyone builds differently. That we need to embrace that, instead of just saying, okay, you have to, this is where you end up.
Absolutely. The third thing you were talking about was corruption in the government. How do we fix that? Is that through term limits, or is it through voter reform, getting access to all voters who are disenfranchised and gerrymandered? How do we really make a transparent system, and how do we make it so that everyone can have their voice heard, and we can see some of these has-beens taken out of office finally?
I 100% am for term limits. I don't think politics should be a job that you should want to stay in that long, but also that you should be able to stay in that long. And then you see, as the longer they stay, the bigger they build their war chest, the more resources they have. This last Friday, I was down in Springfield because had to file the petitions to get on the ballot. So I had to get the signatures first of all, then had a petition to get on there. And I've found that it's a really tough. It's kind of stacked against third parties. It's stacked against the different parties. But I was down at the Board of Elections, and one of the officials at the Board of Elections said, "This is a dumb process. Why do we have to force people to go through this process?" And he's like, the whole system is designed to help the big parties. And this was a Board of Election official saying this. I'm like, okay, we know we have an issue. Like,
right.
So I think term limits, the way that everything is structured, it felt like it was a game for some of these people, like some of these politicians, where they know it's going to be challenged. Like I know that, like, no matter what, the signatures get challenged, and then they try to force you off or try to force you to bring in lawyers and stuff like that. So it helps the big parties, and it helps the big parties and the bigger money. One of the other things is we kind of choose between two candidates. We choose lesser evil or lesser evil. Like that's the mentality. Like, I don't know, maybe if we just voted not evil one time, like if maybe we would fix a lot of that. But
what thought, huh?
Absolutely. Like, just when I hear people say, "Oh, they're the lesser evil of the candidates," I'm like, okay, you do have other choices. I think I would like to see on some of the local levels, like instituting either a rank system or a more candidate system, where even if the Democrats had 2 or 3 candidates and the Republicans had 2 or 3 candidates, and the other parties had a couple candidates, a rank system on some of the more local levels would probably work a little better than like the first past the poll. But just allowing more ballot access, I think, would be one of the bigger moves forward for the country. So ballot access is a big issue with improving the states and improving the ideas.
Absolutely. I just want to make a point that a lot of people call libertarians, Republicans who smoke weed, and other than that, there's not a big difference. Every single libertarian candidate I've had on is in support of all the things you were just talking about: ranked choice voting, easier access to voting, easier registration. This is something that really sets us apart from the Republicans, because I feel like the Republicans really want to keep things as constrained and gerrymandered as they can, and the Democrats do too in a lot of ways. I think on a surface level they're better, but if you look at a lot of their politicians, they really don't want change because they know who's going to vote for them, who's going to keep them in power. And this is really telling. If you have a party who wants every person to be able to vote as easily as they can, that really says something, that we're not afraid of having our ideas shown to these people because we think we have the solutions, and so we want more people to vote. If you're a party that wants fewer people to vote, that's kind of a concerning prospect in my mind. I mean, that sounds like you don't have very good ideas if you don't want as many people voting as possible. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Something on a local level here, like I through high school, and like in the summers I would work for the park district, and they could never pass a referendum. So then they start looking into it. So instead of having the referendum votes in November, they would have it vote in March. And so it was a weird election day, and not many people would turn out, but they would send it out to all their supporters, all the people that they know would vote yes. They would send out, oh, by the way, March 24th on a random Tuesday, there's a referendum that we're going to tax the whole population, but the amount of voters of the town that's 10,000 people, 100 people would show up. But they knew that if 10,000 people voted on it, it'd be no. But instead, they held the election so only 100 people showed up, and it impacted the whole community. And that's kind of what the big parties do on a national level, where what do we have? Well, less than half of the population doesn't even vote. Like of the eligible population doesn't vote because we're just like, okay, this party controls this people, this party controls the other people, and the other people just get along down the middle and never even show up. So
right. One thing that is really prevalent in Illinois near Chicago is there's a lot of crime. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how to deal with that. Maybe eliminating a lot of victimless crimes, but then with the serious crimes that happen, there's a lot of talk about police reform right now, and it seems to be two extremes. You know, we've got one option of abolishing the police, or we've got the other option of not changing anything. So how do you plan to deal with crime in general, and then police reform as well? What specific solutions can we have to have a police system that actually works to protect the people and not abuse their authority?
One of the biggest things that I felt, and like, I've never even smoked weed. I have minimal interest with it, but like, I think the war on drugs has been a disaster.
Right.
I think that increasing interactions between police and young kids, increasing interaction between police and people that know that they may be doing something a little wrong, or and we've kind of decriminalized a lot of it, but we are taking steps backwards. We're using resources. We're putting resources into aggressive actions instead of using resources to more of a recovery. So kind of the war on drugs. Like I am more open to allowing companies to discover better, healthier, cleaner drugs, and also I think having more positive interactions between police forces and the community is a good thing. Police should not be viewed as an intimidation, and a lot of times they are. A lot of communities they are. There is definitely there is definitely a divided feeling the way some people view police versus the way other people view police. So I kind of with the victimless crimes and the war on drugs is reducing the number of negative impacts that we see with the police. I think would be a large step forward. Also, like there is like the debate of, okay, do we increase police? Do we give them more tools? Do we defund it, abolish it? I'm a libertarian. Like I think you should privately be able to fund it, privately fund it for the benefit of the all. Like I think that there's a breaking point on police and police tactics with everyone, where it's at a different level. Like I want to make sure that someone has the voice to say, like, if the police are driving Abrams or MRAPs down the street, like, okay, is this what we really want? Or if they are harassing members of the community, is this what we really want? Like, just more say and more communication with that.
Right. No, I think those sound like reasonable solutions. So Chicago is well known, and the surrounding area is well known for its amount of gun violence, but they also have, I think, some of the strictest gun laws in the whole country. So that obviously hasn't been effective in curbing gun violence. Do you think there's anything we can do either within the government or outside the government to try to stop the spread of gun violence?
I think especially in Chicago, most of and in the area, most of it stems from the drug trade and gang-related activities. And most of the gang-related activities are because of the drug culture. And I don't know enough. Like this is just from what I've talked with other people on it. And you hear statistics and you don't know what exactly to believe. But like as a politician, like I would kind of like to see solutions from community members, but also from the police, because I do think that the drugs do play a major part of it. And if it doesn't, like if it's something else, let them have to take a look at that. But I do think that would be a big impact on it.
Makes sense. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your race looks like? Who's the incumbent? Is he running for re-election? And who are the Democrat and Republican nominees who are running against you? How does that all working out?
So Anthony DeLuca is a Democrat. He's been in power for 11 years. He is running for re-election. And he's never even run against anyone. He was appointed 11 years ago. and then he's run unopposed every year. What I have found out, especially in Illinois, and I don't have the number right off the top of my head, but it was about 40% of Illinois House races, they run unopposed every year or every 2 years. So we want change. The state is struggling, but no one even runs against it. Like when I started looking at this, I'm like, okay, I definitely have to at least try to run. I know that ballot access has been a big issue, and there was finally a lawsuit, and the judge reduced the number of signatures that were needed this year, which did help. Like before, I would have had to get well over 2,000 signatures, and they would have recommended 5,000 signatures. This year, I only had to get 202 signatures. But that whole process, like, very difficult to get on there. So Anthony DeLuca, one of the things that he had always been running against was, or running on, he's run on the idea of term limits. Now we're in year 12 of his stay in power, and still he's saying, oh, term limits. Like after 12 years, like you no longer believe in term limits.
Right.
But then also like property tax reform, I think it's after New Jersey. I think we are the second highest in property taxes. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of different ideas of what we need to do. But he's been pushing it for 12 years, and he's still pushing. He's still saying, oh, yeah, we need to do this. But he's on several committees, been in power 12 years, and nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever gets brought up. So those are kind of some of the ideas. And the Republicans have never even bothered to run anyone here just because they didn't want to spend the time and effort, or didn't want to spend the resources to try to get someone elected in the district. So,
right. Well, I think as a libertarian, you have potential to reach people that Republicans would not, because with your views, you can reach people who might say they're more leaning left, and you can also reach people who are leaning right. And I think you also have a huge opportunity to reach out to young people, because young people are, somewhat rebellious, and they're anti-authoritarian, and they want a lot of the policies that you're talking about. Like, they want criminal justice reform, they want drug legalization, they want these things. And the Libertarian Party is providing those things. And I think that we have somehow allowed ourselves to be labeled as a party for old white business owners. And that's totally not true. Like, yeah, we are. I mean, those people can like us too. That's great, because we have economic sanity. But we have a lot of platforms that can really reach these disenfranchised people. Another big thing you talked about was voting reform. That's huge. So I think you really have an opportunity here to reach people all over the place that a Republican probably wouldn't, unless he was an unconventional type.
I'm hoping so. I appreciate that thought. Like I think that there's a label that's automatically put on the Republicans, and there's a label that's automatically put on the Democrats. Like, people judge it, but with the Libertarian, like, I want you to be able to believe what you want to believe, and as long as you're not hurting other people with your beliefs, I'm good with that. And I feel like there is room within libertarianism for people that are conservative, people that are liberal, but just don't hurt the other people. Right. So that's what it appealed to me on it. I got mostly into it from the economic aspect of it. I'm more of a sound money guy, and wondering what the hell we were doing with the dollar, and that was kind of what drew me in. But like I realized that, like, in order to have like economic freedom, in order to have freedom for your life, you have to have the other types of freedom. You can't just say, okay, we're going to have economic freedom, but I'm going to control your life, or I'm going to control your life, but you're going to have freedom over your life, but not have economic freedom. They go hand in hand. So like I feel like certain aspects tolerate and accept more freedom, where I feel like with the libertarians, our goal is to accept all freedom. So
I agree. The name of my channel, The Naturalist Capitalist. I'm a younger guy myself, and I have been saddened to see that a lot of younger people are disenfranchised with capitalism, and I didn't really understand why until I realized that cronyists and corporatists have hijacked that label. And so when the government is bailing out big businesses or subsidizing certain businesses, giving breaks for the big guy but screwing over the little guy, people view that as capitalism, where that's not what capitalism is about. Free market capitalism is competition, a fair playing field for everybody. They don't realize that a lot of these corporations and a lot of these entities that are cavalier with their money, like the banks, they don't realize they're allowed to survive because of the government. That if we truly had a free market economy, it would be representative of the people's will, because a business can only survive if people are buying its products. So it has to be a good business. But when you have the government come in and prop up certain entities, they stay alive and they screw with the system. So I'm really trying to bring back that positive image of capitalism, especially to young people. How do you think we can do that? If you're an advocate of sound money and free market ideas, what are your plans to show people that that is the way to have a truly representative economy that works for everybody?
I think that it's very tough, and it's saddening for me. Like I am a pure capitalist, where the idea of capitalism is that you control yourself. So with socialism and communism, those everyone's sharing the resources, government controls it or companies control it, and it's owned by the workers. But understand, with capitalism, all those can be achieved within capitalism. You can have companies, like a lot of the grocery stores are employee owned, where you have it where it's controlled by the employees. Like somewhere where the goal of the communism is that the proletariat owns the means of resources. In capitalism, you can have the proletariat, in this case like Hy-Vee or Publix or whatever, they own the means of capital, the means of production in certain entities. If you want to join one of those, in capitalism, you're free to join that.
Right.
It might look like communism. That company might be like a communist based, but the participation is free. You are able to participate whether you like it or not. But you're also able to walk away. I think with capitalism, you're able to opt out. You're able to move away from systems that you don't like. And I think that's why I was turned off by socialism and communism. Is because you can't move away from those. You are forced to participate whether you agree or disagree. And all those entities could exist within capitalism, but capitalism could not exist within those entities. I do think from a marketing aspect, like it'd be very difficult. I know that we confuse the two terms. Anytime we think like the stock market, we think money. Anytime we think any of those, we automatically are drawn to capitalism. We say that we're a capitalist system, but we're not. I know I saw that you had written somewhere kind of that we're supposed to be like a constitutional republic. The term that I've kind of used in my head is that we're a consumerist bureaucracy.
Yes.
The economics that we run is we just tell people to consume. We do stimulus checks. Bush did it. Obama did it. Trump's done it. Just for the idea we consume. We have the interest rates at a level where it's promoting consumption. We don't ever save. We don't ever prepare for the future. We don't do anything other than right now. And then like where I say it's a bureaucracy, sure, we vote every 2 years, every 4 years. Some people get voted every 6 years, but really it's the government acts. So one, we consume. Two, the people that are in power stay in power. The companies that are in power stay in power. Like you run around with these zombie companies or zombie corporations that have no business being in business now, that they have bad business models, but we keep them living just because they support the bureaucracy.
Right. No, I mean, I think you're spot on with everything you said there. the idea of capitalism allowing for these other systems to exist on a voluntary level. That's kind of the entire idea of libertarianism. Like if you have a business and you want it to be a gun-free zone, fine, it's your business. You can do what you want.
Absolutely.
Just mandate these ideas for every single other person. And I like what you were saying about consumption. It's totally right. And on my Twitter page and in some of my videos, I've really tried to nail that home with a lot of environmentalists and people who are against corporate greed. And I tell them that capitalism is the cure for those things. I mean, yes, we do consume way more than we should, but it's because we are enabled through our monetary policy to do that. If we had true capitalism, you would not be able to buy a new car that costs $100,000 every several years. You know, I mean, you wouldn't be able to accrue all this crazy debt that you're getting. We wouldn't be able to consume things from all over the world with no responsible payment to the sources we're buying them from. We would be forced to produce more. We would be forced to save more. All these things that a lot of younger left-leaning people are concerned about. The solution is through a free market economy, not through having the government control everything. Why would you ever trust the government to consume less than they do? Why would you ever think that's the way out of this? You know, I think you really hit the nail on the head with the solution there. Just closing out here, why don't you tell us what we can do to help you? Do you have a website? Do you have a YouTube channel, social media? Do you need donations? Do you want more interviews? What can we do to help elevate you and help kick that guy out of there that's been in there forever, who doesn't want term limits, even though he's saying he does?
Right now, I'm working on a web page. So I've started the Facebook page. So Clayton D. Cleveland for IL 80. I'm kind of forming a plan right now, still in the early stages. I'll find out next week, like if they've challenged me or not, like if I'm going to be on the ballot for sure. So kind of right now I'm formulating a plan of if I got donations, what would I do with them? Like I definitely researching a lot of those aspects to see what I need to do with money, how to campaign. I've reached out to some sign companies. Like I definitely would appreciate any support, any monetary support, or just even advice, how to talk to different people, how to react to hostile situations, how to get more publicity. So definitely, I'm very happy with the first step forward. I will hopefully have a website and have kind of everything lined up on the future. But just being able to get more publicity out there, more notoriety. Sorry, I can't say that. But getting just a bigger message out there for myself and also just libertarians in general.
All right, man. Well, I think you have good ideas that if people hear them, then you can't lose, you know. So it's really about getting your ideas out there and having people understand them. So anyone who's watching this, please share this video. Go to his Facebook and his Twitter page. I'll put a link in the description of the video so you can go check him out there. And help this guy out because we need more people like him. I want to thank you for coming on here and just let us know in the future if there's anything else we can do for you.
I appreciate it, Reed. It was a pleasure meeting you, and thanks a lot for all the time.
You got it. All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll catch you on the next episode.